Hi, good evening. I'm Patricia Van Skyke, and I'm director of the Lloyd Library. And I'm delighted to welcome you to tonight's program, Nature's Pharmacy, Exploring the Science Behind Traditional Herbal Medicine. And somebody told me I say this about almost every program. Oh, I'm so excited for tonight's program. But I really am very excited about tonight's program. Yes, you believe me every time. So, with Mladen Golubić. While concepts of integrative medicine are core to the founding of the Lloyd Library and who we are today, the popularity of tonight's program took even us by surprise. So I was just talking to somebody earlier this evening. If you got the postcard about the programs that were accompanying this exhibit, this program wasn't on the postcard because we didn't have all the details nailed down. So it wasn't on the postcard. It wasn't on the first press release. We were really, and it turned out to be the first program in the series. So we were really concerned, like, how are we going to get the word out? Is anybody going to show up for this? And we knew we had such a great authority. We wanted it to be well attended. Well, we were so wrong. We were not prepared for what the response was going to be. In fact, so hard that it actually broke the registration system because so many came in at the same time. Yes. And we since have figured out how to put like a double stop on that, not just say this many, but, don't let any more than this come in. So hopefully that won't happen again. We also, there's always some people when a program is free that, don't attend. And so we always plan for that. But at the same time, we wanted to have a seat for everybody. So we did plan for an overflow space in the next room. We thought this would be our night to test it out. But I'm honestly very, very glad that everybody gets to be in here in this room hearing Dr. Golubić. So, as I said, it's clearly a topic of interest, but it's a special topic of interest to us because the concepts of integrative medicine really weave through the concepts that the Lloyd brothers had when they founded this library and concepts that are still with us today. And if you haven't had a chance to look around, and please come back to see the exhibition, American Medicine at a Crossroads, and you'll see some of the things that I'm expecting we'll hear about come through. And it really makes me, when I think about it, wonder if we are not at another one of those crossroads when it comes to medicine. Again, feels like a very perfect fit for the Lloyd and the Center for Integrative Medicine. So we're going to learn a lot more about the topic tonight, including, I think, what many of us already know, that nature-based medicine or natural remedies, or however you want to refer to it, is science-based. A lot of people, there are people that think there's not hard science behind it, and there indeed is. We're going to hear more about that tonight, and we're also going to hear about some of the challenges in that field. I'm sorry here. Anyway, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Mladen Golubić. He is the Distinguished Professor of Medicine and the Medical Director at the Osher Center for Integrative Health at the University of Cincinnati. He has both an MD and a PhD and is board certified in internal medicine and lifestyle medicine and is a fellow of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Golubić. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this introduction. Thank you all for coming tonight here to attend this talk. How many of you have seen the visit before? the exhibit. Oh, okay. So then I'll repeat some of the things. I'm sorry. I didn't know about that. It was like kind of introductory lecture, and I thought I'll just kind of take like a bigger picture. So what I'll try to do is kind of summarize what we do at our center, and then how that really interacts with the topic that everybody was so excited to come here. So we are one of 10 Osher Centers in the United States. The other ones are Harvard, Vanderbilt, Northwestern. So we are very privileged to be in that group. And what we try to do is really focus our efforts in research, education, clinical care, and working with the community to ensure that we all have good health. Yeah? And this work in the community, it's my joy to be here and to kind of contribute in that way rather than just being in the office and doing clinical work. And so what we really, really want to do, our goal is that this modern healthcare system that is focused on disease, we kind of twist it around, move it more towards focusing on staying healthy. And so Dr. Andy Weil is basically father, grandfather now, we could say, of the integrative medicine, yeah? So he wrote this editorial with Dr. Snyderman from Duke. And so what they said, at the center of modern healthcare should be self-care, the things that we can do for ourselves. Do we eat well? Do we sleep well? You know, do we move? Manage stress in a healthy way rather than unhealthy ways. And then if this doesn't work, yeah, if we have all kinds of genetic predispositions, exposures, histories, and so on, then we need to use the therapies, the approaches that will mobilize our inner healing abilities. And that's where botanical medicine, acupuncture, massage, similar things, therapies can come. And then the last one would be, if everything else fails, then we will do the high-tech interventions. We will do the bypass surgeries, and we'll use, the modern medicine. So very narrowly, this kind of fits self-care, lifestyle medicine, integrative medicine, all those other modalities that I'll be mentioning, and then our high-tech molecular medicine. Yeah, so that's the universe that we inhabit here. So we are in these first circles. So this is the self-care. Yeah, these are the pillars of self-care, and they all interact through a variety of pathophysiological mechanisms, and the goal is that we stay healthy, that we prevent the disease, and if the disease develops, that we can reverse it, we can arrest it. Now, I was walking here around, and so there is a history, brief history. So I will go very quickly through this. The point is, as far as we can go back, humans have used herbs and natural approaches to treat a variety of things. What is also interesting in the proceedings of National Academy of Sciences, it's not just that it's us humans, that there are also primates that you would think, yes, they do it, but many other animals figure out how they can help themselves through a variety of approaches. So this is a very interesting article you can read. But what was reported last year, because we are studying more and more primates because of the shrinking of their ecosystems, there are less and less of them trying to figure out. They self-medicate. They know exactly to which bush to go, what to do, how to treat themselves. And this was the first time that they documented, because they follow those animals. They know them by names, yeah? So they know exactly what they do. And so they observed there was a fight, and there was a wound around his eye, and how he treated that wound. Yeah, very specific ways. So fast forward to the present day, so that's where we are. Yeah? We have kind of said, okay, how do we make drug out of it? Yeah? And so that is the whole idea. How can we do this more? And then in our universe of integrative health, often people think that if they get a pill of some supplement, that suddenly their health will be restored. And there are clearly indications and supplements when to take them, but it's not like the main thing to focus on. Yeah? So this is just some statistics. So about 25% of drugs that are prescribed worldwide are derived from plants. Oops. This is still in 21st century. Yeah? And then about 11% of those essential medicine lists that the World Health Organization lists, what has to be, what is basic for Homo sapiens, about 11 exclusively of plants origin. And then another interesting thing is this ethnomedical use that traditional societies, cultures have figured out that this herb is for this illness. We actually discovered through modern technology that that's the case. And I was chatting with some of you here. So this is where we went to understand what's happening, which just focused on very narrow thing, just individual ingredient and how does it target, what does it do in the cell. And I think Patricia mentioned, maybe the things are kind of converging, and I think that's exactly what will happen. So I'll give you a few examples, and I apologize, you are all knowledgeable here, and you might know that this is there'll be quiz, okay? So pay attention here, okay? This is just an example of French lilac. Yeah, I've never seen it, but what happened? Farmers, they noticed that if their sheep would eat that French lilac, they would produce more milk. So that was what they observed. And so somebody said, okay, let's study what's happening there. The beginning of 20th century, they looked at the chemistry, and I think, is this one? Oh yeah, here we go. So they found that this is the main compound. And at that time, this was like everybody was experimenting, like I can see here, what can we do with this? So they did all kinds of things. This is just the beginning of the figure. So they put them together, big guanide. Yeah? So from guanidine, you go to big guanide. Boom, there was blood sugar dropped. So they started looking into animals. Amazing. In 1958, Europe approved it. They called drug metformin, which was one of the compounds for diabetes treatment. Now, if you look here, these are the data from 2022 from the paper that describes top 50 medications. Number 1 is Lipitor. Number 2 is thyroid medication. Yeah. Number 3 is metformin. So there are 92 million prescriptions for 20 million people. Okay. And number 4 is Lisinopril. Yeah. Which is blood pressure medication. So which tells you that the most common diseases we have is high blood sugar, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol. And that's why cardiovascular disease is the killer number 1, because all those are risk factors for that. Yeah? So now, we are 3 years later. I'm sure the Ozempic is probably way there up. Metformin is kind of dropping down. That's how it happens, yeah? All right. So, but what I want to emphasize here, yes, metformin was a miracle drug, yeah, very well tolerated, very effective. But when you study it, when you compare it to healthy lifestyle, healthy eating, physical activity, large randomized clinical trial, 3,000 people randomized to 3 groups, to placebo, dummy pill, metformin, and lifestyle. And you can see after 4 years, less than 20% of people who have prediabetes progressed to type 2 diabetes. Those in placebo was 40%, metformin was in between. Lifestyle was twice as effective as preventing progression from prediabetes to diabetes as metformin, which tells you how powerful those things are. And then they followed them for 15 years, and the same thing happened. Yeah? This one, you know the story. There is a book with Hippocrates, yeah? So when I look at this, I always wonder, how did they, whose mind, who crossed somebody's mind to say, okay, let's just take the bark from this tree and not this one and that one and that one and make a tea and see what happens, yeah? Probably a lot of people died and got sick in the process, and then those who did it. So at any rate, Felix Hoffmann, for his father who was really irritated stomach because of the salicylene, added acetic acid, basically, and created acetylsalicylene, which is aspirin, yeah, which until recently was, again, one of the top-selling drugs. From 4th century BC till 1982, we had no idea what aspirin does. It was like, okay, what's happening? Yeah, we see the inflammation goes down and all of those good things happen, and then they got Nobel Prize, discovering that certain fatty acids get modified by an enzyme called cyclooxygenase 1 and 2, and aspirin inhibits those. I'll show you some slides later on. Now, where else do we find salicylic acid? Yeah, salicylic acid is very quickly released in the body. So after you take the aspirin, acetyl group is cleaved, like within 15 minutes, and you have only salicylic acid. The difference is that aspirin will bind to that enzyme irreversibly. It will kill it. The enzyme will be knocked out, cannot do anything. Salicylic acid will kind of bind it, but if the enzyme is strong, it will kind of start working again. Yeah? So it's a reversible, irreversible inhibitor. And so when they studied people, they said, okay, let's see. They were studying metabolism, and they needed people who never use aspirin as a negative control, and they couldn't find those. And then it said, how that happened? So they went to some monastery in Scotland, to some monks, and said, these guys don't take any. We know that they are not lying. Some other people might take secretly some aspirin. No, I never took aspirin. So what they found, they had salicylic acid, and then the food that they ate, yeah, so rosemary, cinnamon, thyme, oregano, nectarines, berries, they all contain salicylic acid. What they found is that if those herbs and fruits and plants were grown organically, their content was 6 times higher than if they were non-organic. And so there was a paper in Nature that shows that plants, when they are not sprayed by pesticides, when they need to defend themselves naturally, one of the key pathways to do that, it goes through the salicylic acid accumulation. So if you do not help plants with pesticides, they need to defend themselves. They produce more salicylic acid, and so if we consume those, we get more of that stuff. Yeah? So, whenever you can, get some of those organic. Now, here is the other one. Clearly, the list can go on. We can talk about opium, all those things. But I put this one another Nobel Prize. And what is interesting here, so this sweet wormwood, Artemisia, has been in traditional Chinese medicine. Because today, even in some parts of China, they have malaria. Yeah? And so they have used this. And so this lady, Professor Yo Tu, she doesn't have PhD. She's not a medical doctor. She just understood their herbal history. And so she looked into that and isolated compound, artemisinin. And she was in the tradition of all good experimenter. She was the first one who tried on herself. She said, okay, let me see if this really helps with malaria. And that's exactly what happened. And so now artemisinin is combined with some other compounds is the first-line treatment for malaria worldwide. Yeah, this was the medication that really made a difference in treatment of malaria. Now, why should we care about malaria? Because of the climate change, mosquitoes, the habitats are changing, and we could predict, there are predictions that southern parts, malaria will pop up. What was interesting, in Kentucky, they grow the wormwood, sweet wormwood. There is a documentary. I put the link here if you want to to watch it, you can just Google it, is the research that is being done here. Yeah, going beyond malaria and looking into cancer, and as well as at that time was COVID. That was 2020. Yeah. So I didn't know that. So I learned that for this lecture. So all right, and then for cancer, this is another big thing. Yeah. So besides cardiovascular disease, cancer is second leading cause of death, and is soon going to overtake cardiovascular disease. It will be the leading cause of death. So a number of really widely used, very effective anti-cancer medications, vinblastine, vincristine for leukemias, lymphomas, and so on, Taxol. There is actually, in one of those, I think on that side, they talk about Taxol, about the U-tree, and so on, and then, so-called DNA topoisomerase 1, topoisomerase 2. Those are the key mechanisms in the division of DNA of the cells. And so these are the plant-derived compounds that we use in modern medicine, yeah, for treatment of cancer quite effectively. Now, I want to show you what I did when I was at Cleveland Clinic. And there'll be no quiz after, okay, for sure. What we found, we discovered that certain fatty acids we consume turn off so-called tumor suppressor genes and activate oncogenes, cancer-causing genes. And so we were looking at the mechanisms, and it turned out that the most potent was one product, lipid product, of an enzyme called 5-lipoxygenase, 5-LOX, okay? So we said, okay, let's see if this thing is expressed in brain tumor cells. And we worked with malignant brain tumor. We started with benign. We couldn't get funding, so we switched to malignant because it's benign, okay, you don't need funding. If it's malignant, okay, we'll give you some funding. So just pay attention here. All of this is irrelevant. I just had slide. I just copied it. So if you stain the non-cancerous brain tissue, some patients have intractable epilepsy, and then you clip off a piece of that focus that causes the troubles. So we took this. We went to the operating room with an ice bucket and media. So we had normal cells, and then you have those malignant cells. And you can see that there are a lot of black dots here. Yeah. So this enzyme was highly expressed in malignant brain tumor tissue. The natural thing is when something is abnormally high, said, how can we bring it down? So we looked what are the inhibitors of that. And so the only one inhibitor was singular. Yeah? That was just a new drug developed for asthma. The problem with singular was it doesn't go through blood-brain barrier. So we couldn't use it to treat those tumors because any compound, that's why brain tumors are difficult to treat, because our blood-brain barrier doesn't want anything undesirable to pass there to the brain. Brain is very protective what can go there. And I was at a meeting showing about this expression, and we were going there, people from the meeting, they were taking us to some aquarium. And behind me was a gentleman. Hi, how are you? He was from Germany, from Tübingen, and that's where I did my PhD in Germany. So we started talking. It happens so that he studies frankincense, and frankincense inhibits 5-lipoxygenase, okay? So I talk about 5-lipoxygenase, he talks about frankincense chemistry. And so we meet on the trip to the aquarium. So there is this fatty acid that we make in our bodies, but we get it plenty of from diet. In our cells, it gets oxidized with this lipoxygenase or cyclooxygenase. This is your aspirin, ibuprofen, Celebrex, yeah? They inhibit this part. We found that this was elevated, and we said, let's inhibit it, and these are the products that cause all of these bad things that happen to our bodies. Yeah? So these are not our friends at elevated levels. At normal levels, we need them. We need any of this, nothing in the body is like kind of wasteful, yeah? But overexpressed is a problem. So the group in Tübingen were already using some of this. This is the preparation H15 Ayurvedica from, it was Ayurvedic medicine. And so they were studying this, and they basically gave those pills. They got them from the frankincense tree, yeah? The gum resin from frankincense tree. They extracted it, purified it a little bit, and they pack it in the tablets, and they were giving them to patients with malignant brain tumors, and they show a couple of cases where the swelling around the tumor shrunk, and the tumor was smaller in some cases. Yeah, you see here in that dose show with radiological clinical response. Since at that time, this was, you know, early 2000, not much was known about how we can help those patients. So we thought, okay, this would be a good thing to look into. How can we do it? And so what we did, we obtained funding from National Institutes of Health. We had a company in Germany preparing much better extract. And then the company went bankrupt. Then we found another one in the UK, got the FDA approval, and started running randomized clinical trial at Cleveland Clinic with patients in malignant brain tumors, placebo and extract. Like 2 months after we started, a new drug came on market, Avastin, that blocks the growth of blood vessels. And so if you're a patient with malignant brain tumor, and somebody tells you, here is the frankincense extract, and here is Avastin, what would you do? You would go to Avastin, yeah? And the trials are run in such a way that if you take the drug, you cannot take anything else. You have to agree not to change anything. That's how you figure out if the drug is helping or something else, yeah? So the long story short, we never recruited enough patients. We needed 75 in each group to have statistical power to show this. Clearly, there were some, you know, beneficial responses and so on, but nothing spectacular, okay? So that was my adventure into herbal medicine, okay? Now, we didn't give up. Oh, this is just to show you. When we submitted you know, to the FDA, it really required a lot of work. So the point that I'm trying to make here, this was the mixture. This wasn't one compound. There was a mixture of compounds, and some were more potent, like this one, 11-acetyl-keto-beta-bosselic acid. And then in the meantime, there was a lot of research shown with many different cells. Now, these are in vitro studies. These are not studies with humans. That is the problem. This is one of the weaknesses of the herbal medicine field. I'll show you on some other studies. You know, small number, you don't have resources to do large studies, long term, and so on. But at least there are so many mechanisms found. And as I talked with some of them, these are very promiscuous drugs. Yeah, they target many things. They are not just isomerase 1 or 2 inhibitors. Yeah. Now, since that time, and some of you whom I have seen in my practice probably have even tried and used this, when you look what 5-lipoxygenase does in the body, yeah, you would say, wow, it should be of help for somebody who has osteoarthritis, has knee pain. Yeah? It goes through blood-brain barrier, or it goes through synovial membrane, yeah, in the joint. So this was a randomized trial with patients who have knee osteoarthritis. They have knee pain, they really struggle with walking and so on. And so you give them this, they prepared this extract called 5-loxin, and this is still on the market. You can buy it commercially. So what they did, they had placebo group, they had a group when they would give them 100 milligrams, 250 milligrams, and then these are the days. And you can see this if you compare placebo, the white, to 250. There is a big difference in pain decrease. There are many different scales, and improved function. Okay? But they also found that what it does, it inhibits an enzyme that chews on cartilage, matrix metalloproteinase. Yeah? So it also inhibits that. So it has more functions. And then in other studies, they show that it inhibits very important antioxidant pathway in the body. I mean, activates antioxidant protection, and is neuroprotective. And as in Ayurvedic, Arabic, and traditional Chinese medicine, they used it for abdominal pain. And they have shown the effects, the benefits in randomized studies for inflammatory bowel disease patients. Yeah. So the use of this is broad, yeah, depending on which condition you have. So as Sidney Harris said, you know, how did that happen? Yeah, well, then a miracle occurs, yeah. So we kind of figured it out. You take this gum resin and you look at this, and then, you know, you use the gene chips and all kinds of stuff, and you can kind of figure out, you know, how can we make it better? How can we improve it? So I think this is the combining the best of, you know, what traditional medicine does and the new one. Very important in many of these studies, you might read a lot about this supplement or this herbal extract and that one. You always have to think, was there a placebo control? We are incredible in eliciting self-healing response if we are convinced that this will help us. In fact, now they show, usually they try to hide placebo. Yeah, they would kind of inject you with something, you don't know what they inject you with. But even if I come to you and I said, would you like to be in a study? It's open placebo. You will get open placebo. It's nothing. It's a, you know, normal saline, and you will get the active ingredient. You will improve. It's mind-boggling. So you always have to have this. And if you look back on those graphs that I show you, placebo was also improving, yeah, with the progression of time. Yeah. So when you read some of those things, you know, one has to really be careful with that. Many of the things that I have seen here, it's focused on inflammation. Inflammation is such a basic evolutionary mechanism of repair. Whatever stressor is, whether it's virus, whether it's trauma, whether it's toxin, and it's involved in really almost any disease that you can imagine. Yeah? And so this is, I thought of this slide from Dr. Adi Haramati. He has this slide about stress response. Yeah? So with stress, but just pretend here now it will be inflammation. Yeah, you get insult, you have stressor. Yeah, in this case could be virus. Yeah, let's say I don't know, COVID virus, whatever. And then you develop this inflammatory response, and the body heals, and the inflammatory response goes down to zero. That's it. That's beauty. That's called healing. Yeah, I defend in myself, and the reaction is off. However, if you get another stressor and you still didn't recover, the recovery doesn't go down to zero. And then you have this chronic low-level inflammation. Yeah? And that is that simmering chronic low-level inflammation that is getting us in trouble, because we never come back to that for a variety of reasons, mostly because of our non-adherence to optimal lifestyle. Yeah? So, after this frankincense stuff didn't go forward, I was walking through actually it was called Wild Oats, but then Whole Foods purchased Wild Oats store, and I was looking, you know, those supplements. Yeah, let me see, where can I find the other things that have 5-lipoxygenase inhibitors? And so here they are. And they're all edible herbs. Rosemary, ginger, turmeric, holy basil, tulsi, Indian herb, oregano, green tea, Baikal skullcap, hujang, barberry. Yeah? And then these are the main ingredients. Yeah? That inhibits cyclooxygenase, that's the aspirin ibuprofen family, and then you have these 5 logs, where is frankincense and all of those other ones. Yeah? So one of those was from a company called New Chapter. So I bought this, I took the capsule, filtered it, put it on the cell culture and say, let's see what happens, yeah? Now, you can put vinegar on the cell culture and cells will die, and you say, oh, wow, it's working very well, yeah? But if the cells die with very specific pathway, and we were filming them, we were filming what happens, yeah? So they were kind of moving, the cells always moving, and then they kind of froze. And then they went and died through so-called apoptosis, very programmed cell death, yeah, very ordinary way of clearing up cells. So I wrote to those guys, I said, you know, I'm seeing this, you know, can you support us? And so they said, yeah, we'll come, we'll support you. And so the big goal was to raise money, to do more research, and go and repeat the things that we wanted to do with human studies. So we did a lot of gene work. We looked at the gene expression and all kinds of stuff. And this is the patent. Actually, for this slide, I went and I checked. If I tell you, you know, you can Google my name and patent, you will find this, whether it's still there. And it's still there, and it expires actually in September. It will be 10 years since we patented this. Now, we never did any trial. I left, you know, I started doing different things from the lab. And I mentioned to somebody, I was reluctant to put this here. I don't get any royalties, nothing. I have nothing to do with the company. In fact, they wanted to sue me because I had a rule I have to repeat the experiment 3 times. So they wanted to publish paper after 2, and I disagreed. And then they said, well, you're not doing well. So the lesson is it's very hard to work in the environment where, you know, academic medicine is not super excited, and then you have, you know, very knowledgeable people, and these are friends that, you know, have amazing biodynamic organic farm in Costa Rica. They don't have any internal combustion engine. They have oxen that they plow their fields. I mean, this is ginger and turmeric you want to have, yeah, you have to put in your body. But it's a tough competition, and so you cannot go wrong if you eat those things, okay? Now, for somebody, it might be helpful that you take the liquid CO2 and you do that whole root and you know, extraction, and then you concentrate it. You have much better you know, activity. If you just look at the ginger, there are 17 compounds that are like Celebrex like. I mean, it's an enormous treasure. It's just that now, how do you know, you need a lot of money, you need efforts to figure out, you know, which one do we focus. Some of those are well known, like quercetin and so on. So I'm looking at the time here. So I put here, where do we go from here, yeah? And this is just a snippet, and I know some of you will be disappointed because maybe you expected some, you know, something like from those books, yeah, something new, exciting. But when I think about that, I'm very grateful that I'm not astrophysicist, okay? Because what they study is everything is unknown, yeah? Dark energy, identity unknown, dark matter unknown. There is about 6% of what we can detect that we said, okay, yeah, this is the star, this is the planet, whatever that is, yeah? Imagine working like astrophysicist, yeah? So in spite of so many uncertainties in herbal medicine, in botanical medicine, we know much more than those guys. And we are in much better shape than our ancestors were during that 14th century, these 10 years in European history, the decimated population, that 30% of population perished, yeah? We had absolutely no defense. We knew nothing about how disease is developing, what is causing disease. We were hopeless, yeah? Now we know much more, yeah? So that's the power of modern medicine, yeah? But we were so eager that we now entering another problem. And this is this amazing fact that antibiotics turn around was really after vaccination the second biggest revolution in medicine. And the third one is basically now the GLP-1 receptor agonist. Yeah. So this is a big issue, antibiotic resistance. It's getting more and more common because what we do, we take these precious antibiotics, we run them through animals because we crowd them in really unnatural conditions. We need to protect them if you don't want to lose your business. And the germs mutate. The more opportunity you give them, the more mutations they do, the more resistant they become to the antibiotics. And the estimations are really scary, what will happen unless we do something. And I'll show you, there were many, many decades that we didn't have any new class of antibiotics. Yeah, so we are kind of running really into troubles. So this is from Lancet. They looked at the whole world situation and then also United States. So every year there are about 3 million infections, and these are really not easy to treat. Yeah? That is very costly, and then 35,000 people die. Yeah? That's a lot of death, yeah, from something that we had the tools. And these are the major rascals, yeah? And I put two in there. I'll show you some data. E. coli and Acinetobacter baumannii. Yeah? This was the one when I was resident. We had a patient in the ICU with that. We were like Martians in the spacesuits. It was really absolutely scary. And we didn't have anything. Yeah? It was just like, you know, will the defenses work or not? Yeah? So this is a recent study from last year where they found that this Acinetobacter baumannii, they call it carbapenem. Carbapenem is one of the like broad spectrum, the last hope, yeah, like Obi-Wan Kenobi, our last hope. It's carbapenem. So for more than 50 years, there was no new antibiotics. Yeah? So finally, these guys from Harvard and Hoffman La Roche found a new antibiotic, and now it's in phase 3 clinical trial. Actually, they moved very fast when this was published in January. Last year, they were phase 1 trial, and now phase 3, and this is, if it's working, FDA will approve it. Yeah, so it will save a lot of lives, yeah, if we get this. And then there was a recent Nature podcast. Apparently, there was a technician in the lab who was interested in what's in the soil, yeah? In the garden, and they discovered a new type of antibiotic. Yeah, there are those microbes. So not all microbes are, I mean, penicillin is the fungus, yeah, that destroys bacteria. So we have now another new type of antibiotics. This brings me to that. So in our world, this tree of life, you know, we talk about this here. So we use some, you know, plants, some fungi, and we have tiny little twig on this, you know, animal branch. But look at all of this chemistry. Look at all of these organisms, yeah? How much potential there is to discover the things that can help us. And this is like a strong urge to retain that diversity, to protect it, yeah? Why I was talking about antimicrobial resistance is that there has been this breakthrough, and what they did, they were observing gorillas. They were studying gorillas. And then they said, okay, let's look at those plants. And really like top-notch work. And they found, they tested those multi-drug resistant E. coli that I showed you on the previous slide. Yeah, it's E. coli is one of those 6 Darth Vaders. Yeah, and so what they did, they isolated those compounds, and so there is really almost like a breakthrough that is coming from natural world. Yeah? But we have people who are probably much more knowledgeable than gorillas. Yeah? And the problem was happening, whether it's Amazonian rainforest, apparently there are 400 different tribes. They speak different languages. They have different cultures, different medicinal traditions. And so they are kind of getting squeezed, yeah? We are chopping off the rainforest to grow corn to feed the cows. And loss of plants is a big tragedy, but the bigger one is nobody is staying to replace those guys. And they are the walking encyclopedias. They have to figure that out, what to do, where to go, at what time, how to prepare it. And I think our role is really to do everything what we can to kind of protect that environment. And so that's what I put here. Medicine can do just a little bit, but there are many, many other aspects of society where all of you play a role. Yeah, you are the ambassadors of those changes that need to be done. I borrowed this slide for Dr. Dean Norris. So these are us doctors. Yeah, so we have these amazing mops. Now they are powered by artificial intelligence. Yeah, it's just like top of the line. We do amazing things. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you can reverse strokes. You can do all kinds of magic stuff that we can do. But we are very bad plumbers. More and more people get strokes. More and more people get cancer. More and more people get diabetes. Yeah. What are we doing? Yeah. And if we are mopping the floors, it's very, very hard to be a good plumber. Yeah, we have to become good plumbers, but the system is kind of driving you to, and you have to mop faster and mop more. Yeah, because the influx is. So that's where everybody else has to contribute. If you take good care of yourself, we'll do good. Yeah. So I'll just repeat this: that there is only one medicine, and that's evidence-based medicine. And this time in human history, we just have to use some principles where people with different opinions can agree and disagree, and then you run the experiment and you prove or you disprove. It's a wonderful method. Yeah, it's not very convenient, and sometimes it's easier to jump through the hoops. So look at those pillars of self-care. Think about where you can make improvement. What is your weakest point? What you can strengthen. And moving more, sitting less, it's a great thing. Yeah, so you're sitting here for a lot, so you'll have to go for some good walk. Yeah? And if you are the least active, you will benefit the most. And really, it's almost everybody can do something, okay? In spite of all the limitations. Even we tell our patients, no excuses. Oh, you want us to do yoga? Yes. Yeah, anybody can do yoga. I was told that Dr. Walker, Barbara Walker, who really asked me to come and speak tonight, she does nature prescription. Yeah, just the fact of going out is so healing. So spend more time outdoors rather than indoors. And so that's what Barbara and Kelly do. And so there will be, what is August 20? No, when is August 25th? Huh? Oh, October 25th. Sorry, I said August, yeah. Yeah, so this is the forest immersion. So you'll get, this one will be on the postcards for sure. Yeah. So for food, eat food, real food, not food-like substances that have all these compounds that you cannot pronounce. Not too much, and mostly plants. That's it. You don't have to stress about many other things. Yeah. The only worry that people tell me when eat more plants, that will contribute to global warming. Yeah. So I told my kids, I said, I will show this slide. Dad, don't show this. No. I'm going to show this because this is what contributes to global warming. Yeah. That is the challenge. And you see this. These are those shamans. These are those people who know, who hold the treasure trove of information that we just didn't have tools to figure out. And then you get this. Yeah, you get this. Basically, there's a desert where you grow the stuff that normally doesn't grow there. Yeah. Did you know this? 80% of land where we could grow the food for us directly, we grow for animals. And we deplete the soil. the rate of depletion of soil in Midwest is faster than any model predicts can be regenerated, yeah? Because we just go at a maximum speed, yeah? So, pillar of sleep. Many people like to take melatonin. I just said follow circadian rhythm as best as you can, yeah? And it's night, it's night. It's not time to watch TV and do those things. You can read a book. Magnesium, you don't need supplement, eat green leafy vegetables. Every molecule of chlorophyll has magnesium. You cannot go wrong, yeah? You just have to eat a handful of vegetables. Gut microbiome diversity, that is the key. If you have more diverse gut, more different types of fiber, you sleep better, you are healthier. Vitamin D also helps with sleep, and then ashwagandha. In the spirit of our, herbal medicine talk, yeah, you probably heard about ashwagandha. So there are some data about benefits of ashwagandha. So follow circadian rhythm, yeah, as best as you can. And for ashwagandha, we have 5 randomized trials, total of 400 participants were analyzed. And the different doses, the one above 600 and treated for more than 8 weeks was the most effective. When FDA approved Ozempic, they had 7 randomized clinical trials, and they had more than 8,000 patients followed over a year and a half, and then later on longer. Okay? This is the challenge in this field. Yeah, there are no resources to do this long term and use different doses and try different things. Yeah? But ashwagandha is traditionally used in Ayurvedic medicine for sleep. Yeah? It's a Vitania somnifera. Yeah? The name says it. But also, it looks like it's kind of helps with anxiety and These are tips for better sleep. I'll just skip this. I thought you would all get PDF of my presentation, so you can go kind of look into that. And then the biggest stress reducers, yeah, friends. You are here, whether, even if you're not with the best friend, you are in community. Having purpose, meaning in life is also helpful, physical activity. And then formal practices to elicit opposite from stress response. It's a rest and digest relaxation response. Whatever works for you, whether it's prayer, meditation, yoga, qigong, whatever. Yeah. So again, I'll just go quickly through this. This will be the goals. You can see this. It's a wonderful booklet. You can get it for free. Come to our center. These are the classes. These are no cost to our patients. You just scan the QR code, and you said, okay, I want virtual, I want yoga, mindfulness. You can participate in those. Yeah. So there will be this QR code. You can scan this. So this is our team. Dr. Walker, she'll be guiding you through the mindful walking, the forest bathing. Mladen Golubić, and then Murthy. These are Tai Chi and yoga therapy experts. We also do sound music, sound immersion. Once a month, you come and you are in heaven, yeah? And so then the question is also adaptogens. Yeah, what else can I take? Yeah, I know I can meditate, I can do all of those things, but is there anything else? Again, the science is not that strong, but these are the most common ones from ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is actually studied quite well. And then I saw there is a book with a picture of ginseng, yeah? So, yeah, you can try clearly, but really the problem is those small short-term trials, geographically limited. There are many things on ashwagandha done in India. So there was a study done in Pakistan, patients with type 2 diabetes who were treated with 3 grams of cinnamon, and their blood sugar went down. They said, wow, this is incredible. So they said, okay, let's repeat it here, and didn't show anything, because our people don't eat what people in Pakistan eat. Yeah? So you cannot just add cinnamon and say, yeah, it's going to work. Yeah? So those are the problems. If you have 5 studies and 4 of them are done in India, then you said, what do how can I translate these to our? This is a common problem because we are in very reductionistic way of thinking. You know, how can I just focus on one of the things? And then interactions. That's why those things are not studied, you see. If you go through radiation therapy, don't take any supplements, any vitamins, nothing, because there was one study showing the bad outcomes for people who have head and neck cancer who were smoking. Okay? So, yes, if I care for you, I don't want that, you know, I harm you. Yeah, so those are the challenges. And of course, it can be, you can run the study. You can say, okay, you will get the same chemotherapy, you'll get this vitamin or extract, you'll get this one, what happens, yeah? We don't do that. This is very interesting, because normally would be, look, we take the herbal extract, we take the pill, and we measure what's happening in our cells. We kind of forget that we are host for trillions of microbes. How does that affect microbes in the gut, in the skin, in this case, oral and vagina microbiome? So they looked at what are the targets for any of those drugs between microbes and our cells and our friendly microbes that we live. Yeah? And apparently there is a lot of similarities. So what we think that we are kind of hitting particular, you know, bug, we are actually also targeting our gut microbes and other microbes. And that is an enormous complexity, how to do those interactions. You can get our acupuncture treatment from our acupuncturist. We just hired the fifth one, David. And then we have our massage therapists. Pamela Sharp is a nurse practitioner who with me, we see patients in lifestyle medicine, integrative medicine consultation that are covered by insurance. And Pamela is a certified chef. And you could see through my talk, I'm quite big about food and she as well. So can guide you through that. So what I would say for you guys, remember, eat plants, keep moving, sleep well. Yeah? Stay calm, okay? Be present and love people. And I think as Mr. Spock said, you know, you will live right and live long and prosper, all right? So thank you very much. I'll stop here. All right, I'm sure you have plenty of questions. Yes?
I recently learned that the king cobra in India is a real problem. People get bitten and they die from it. They developed a vaccine, and it turns out that the vaccine was helpful, very helpful for some people with bites, and it wasn't helpful for others. And then some wise naturalist started looking into it, and he found that there are 4 different species, subspecies of cobras, and that explains why the vaccine. And so that's the lead into my question. In the nature's plenty, you know, the recipes or the herbs or whatever, have you ever noticed that genetic variations have some impact on how, you know, what kind of reaction you get when you use that as a medicine?
Sure, I think this is the new frontier, yeah? What we currently do, we prescribe medications for everybody the same. Now, for some medications that alter, you can run certain tests and see how you metabolize, which one would be better, which one would have less side effects. In cancer treatment, if you have methylation on a particular gene, you know that you're going to respond to radiation therapy quite well, and if you don't have, you will not. So you can kind of tailor therapies. This is cutting edge. More and more, we do not look if cancer is coming from breast or colon or prostate. We look which molecular signatures they have. Yeah? If they have mutation in one epidermal growth factor receptor, and we have inhibitor for that, it doesn't matter where you have cancer. That's what you want to use. Yeah? So that is the analogy through cobras. I didn't know that there are 4 different ones, and that's exactly what happens. This particular species had some difference in the venom that when they developed the vaccine, they target that particular thing. The other cobras had a different molecular signature, and they were not protected. Yeah? So that's why COVID mutants happen. Yeah? So that's why you have the vaccine, and suddenly they mutate, and now you have flu. Yeah, every year it's a different strain. We kind of predict which one will happen, and then we kind of get ready for that.
I should give the institute, the center, a plug because I've taken part in most of those services.
Yes.
The Tai Chi and yoga and meditation, they're great programs.
Thank you. Thank you. The same like this is great program. So,
Doctor, you talked about chronic inflammation earlier, and you gave us a list of plant-based remedies that help reduce chronic inflammation. How can I tell if they're working? Other than long-term, you're going to get an illness that comes from chronic inflammation. But I read about all these things. You've given us some great starters there. But if I've got, how do I know if I've got chronic inflammation, and how do I know if they're working, if one works better than another? Are there symptoms? Yeah. How do you tell?
First of all, people start using those because they have some symptoms. They have pain, they have, I don't know, abdominal problems, you know, all kinds of things. But there are markers of inflammation. C-reactive protein, CRP, it's a test that your primary care can order. It's very non-specific. It just tells you you have inflammation somewhere. You don't know whether you didn't sleep well last night, whether you got some, trauma, whether you have inflammation in the arteries, whether you have inflammation in your joints. You don't know. You just see that levels up. Yeah? So that's one. Then you have other markers like insulin level, fasting insulin level. It's a great marker of inflammation. If your insulin is elevated, fasting insulin, you are more likely to have inflammatory state because if you look at the mechanism. So that's why eating sugars, refined carbohydrates, it's like putting fire on gasoline on a fire of inflammation, because then you secrete more insulin, and insulin drives the inflammation. And then ratios between triglycerides and HDL, it's another indicator of inflammation. And then, of course, we don't measure this now. There are very specific tests. You can measure the production of 5-lipoxygenase products, cyclooxygenase products. They're all done in research setting. But yeah, you can have some objective markers. You might not know where you have inflammation, but if you take some of those anti-inflammatory herbs, or you start meditating, or you sleep better, the markers will go down. So there is a way how you can monitor that. Besides, I'm feeling better.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excuse me?
Sorry.
Yes.
Because they are unregulated, if you wanted to take some of those herbs, how would you recommend finding a good, reputable source?
That is a fantastic question. Yeah, so the question was, how do you know that this is a reputable source? The problem is that I think in mid-1990s, 1996, the FDA decided that those things will not be regulated. You have to show, if you show the harm, then we'll go after you. So you can read in the newspapers, this stuff had, blood thinners, all kinds of stuff that was not there. And so what we did at Cleveland Clinic, we had a wellness institute, and we had on 2 locations store. But you could go, and if I said, okay, go there and get some 5-lipoxygenase inhibitor from frankincense, this is the product that is there. And how we did that, we went to the companies. And we followed from where do they get the product. Is it coming from Indonesia? How is it grown? Who is processing? What is the quality of it? They had to provide all the documentation that they had. Like We had one company that was making red yeast rice. Red yeast rice is used to lower cholesterol. Actually, the first statin, lovastatin, was isolated from red yeast rice. And they didn't want to, they said, no, this is our trade secret. Okay? And there is a toxin, citrulline, that can damage kidneys if you do not purify it properly. Yeah? So those companies that said, no, we cannot do this, we will not open the books, we did not feature them. Yeah? So there are a couple of reputable companies, and I mean, I cannot, advertise. I show you some of those here. You just look, if you want to buy Boswellia serrata, the frankincense, we had to submit to FDA for our study all the products that were on the market, giving to patients, and you should not buy this one, you should only use the one that we get. Because people naturally said, okay, if doctors give me this in a study, maybe I'm taking the one, I'll just get another 5 pills, yeah? So there are a lot of things. You always look at the least ingredients you have, probably you're the safest, yeah? Because often they kind of try to kind of hide, they put a lot of stuff. The same like with, reading about nutrition ingredients. If you come to this product contains 2% or less of this, you kind of worry about it, yeah? I don't have the right answer. This is the problem. Because if you go and you get aspirin, you know that this is aspirin, okay? If I go and I get something, any of those that I was presenting today, I do not know how was that done. Yeah, so I think it's not the right way to do it, but I understand that if you use chamomile or peppermint, or you don't need extra certificate and liquid chromatography to show that this is chamomile. Yeah. So how do you draw that line? It's a very difficult thing. You don't want to hinder people to use what is. I mean, just look here. This is like a treasure trove of knowledge that people had. Yeah. So why would you worry about it? But they knew what they were doing. Yeah. So how do you know that somebody who packed this? Where the company is? Yeah. Is it in Turkey? Is it in? You have to do homework and kind of look into that. Yes.
So this is kind of goes along with that question. So for the herbs, do you recommend fresh herbs? So obviously with ginger, and the turmeric. But if it's oregano, would you want fresh versus dried, or how? Again, it just incorporating it into your anything.
I think the best is to combine. The best is to combine. The chemistry changes. Yeah. Garlic is fine raw. When you saute it, you change certain things. Certain things get more enhanced. The other ones are not more enhanced. Yeah. The same thing now in our period. Yeah. I'm crazy about thyme. Just the whole. We have the neighbor who is supplying us with honey, and then we exchange tomatoes, and then just come with scissors. We have plenty of time. So in the winter, yes, actually they survive pretty good. But some of the plants you don't have. You can go to Kroger and just get some of those that are fresh, yeah, if you want. And then you have the spices. You have ginger spice. You buy ginger root. You peel it. You grate it. You squeeze it. I mean, combine. Any form, it's good. Yeah.
Hi, this was really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My son has G6PD deficiency, which is known as FAVism as well. And it's funny, the contraindicated substances are aspirin, favabeans, and he cannot have the malaria vaccine.
Yes.
I don't know, some of the stuff on there, like rosemary, we eat, with our dinner. I spice things with that, and thyme. I use that all the time, and he's never had a reaction from those things. But I wonder, do you do studies at Osher on FAVism, and kind of how are they assisted with integrative medicine if some of the naturally occurring substances that are most beneficial they are supposed to not have?
I wish we could do some studies, but we don't. we just don't have, we are, for the past year and a half, we are trying to recruit a research director who would kind of organize the studies. And as you could imagine, you do the studies where you know, you can support them and fund them, yeah. So some of those things probably, yeah, the same I told you, you know, I was working on benign brain tumors and you couldn't get funding because it doesn't matter. But once you switch to malignant, you know, it's clearly much more serious thing. So, you know, unfortunately, your son has something that it's relatively common. It's not unheard of, and you manage it just by avoiding certain offending foods. And I don't know exactly, you know, how certain foods would impact directly. But no, we don't do that kind of research.
Is there somebody here?
Just a little comment. When you showed a slide that had a plant on it referred to as Sweet Annie, I can't remember the.
Yeah, Sweet Annie. Yeah,
Okay. And it grows all over.
It's invasive, yes.
Oh, wormwood. Okay.
Wormwood, yes.
But so that grows all over, and it grows all around farmers' fields, and they can, you know, you talk about plant-based stuff. Well, you have to. Some people distinguish plants between a plant and a weed.
Yes.
And the farmers treat Sweet Annie like a weed, and they spray to keep it out from spreading into their
because
fields.
it's invasive. It's not native to North America. It's a Chinese herb. And
Well, I took some from a local park that was under renovation, and I planted it at my house.
and
It's taking over my neighborhood.
wow.
Don't,
It's really invasive.
don't tell anyone unless they want to use it for nature.
Well, you could contact those guys at University of Kentucky and say, do you need more of the material for your research? And, you know,
Call me.
artemisinin is a really breakthrough drug in malaria, although now the Plasmodium falciparum is gaining the resistance, yeah, so you kind of have to combine it more and more.
I
So,
just took it because I love the smell.
yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you
You're very
so
welcome.
much.
Thank you.
And of course, I also want to thank the Center for Integrative Health and all of you for coming here tonight. Great questions, your attention. Programs like these are supported by members of the Lloyd Library and some sponsors here tonight. If you're not a member, I encourage you to join. If you are, again, I thank you. We have a lot more programs coming up over the next few months on medicine, several of which that do relate to integrative medicine as well. Our next set of programs are virtual lectures on 19th century alternative or reformed medicine starting in September. So, and you can check the postcards that we have in the back. You can check our website. We hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.